I got a feeling that you're lonely tonight. I heard it from your baby. It gave a light that you'd be feeling alright. She said you're acting crazy.
You don't understand, Dean. I have feels. Stop it, Sammy. Only I'm allowed to have feels. I won't. I will feel. Stop that. Stop that right now. I too am having feels. You can't just order the feels away, Dean. Yes, I can. That's what Dad taught us. I have, a story, too. Nobody cares. Look, we're going to hug it out, brother. You can't make me. Watch me. Ah! All the feels, Dean. Face the feels. Me, too. Ah!
Seen it before. We ain't over.
All right, well, we've apparently figured out what Buckner-Leming's strengths are. The characters, not so much the canon. Let's take the whole deal with the upcoming prophet getting garbled messages from Donatello. What do I have for Donatello? No Ninja Turtles. Do I have something soulless? Yeah, there we go. What's the deal with Donatello, sending messages to the next prophet? Well, there's nothing immediately contradictory in canon with that idea, and the circumstances of a prophet being nearly brain dead are exceptional enough that it's kind of believable this situation has never really come up before to be recorded in lore. Then there's the question of what happened to the darkness that twisted and warped Donnie. On the one hand, I'm happy enough that the Winchesters, had a win, and I'm kind of willing to let that question slide. On the other hand, it could be explained that whatever evil was corrupting his shell was passed on to poor Tony, and maybe that's what drove him crazy and murderous. It would have been nice to have an actual line about that in the episode, but they put enough in there that it's not too big of a leap for the audience. I'd grade that probably a moderate plot hole. Then there were Nick and his adventures in this episode. I mean, I've already said all that I need to, and it still applies here. The whole bit with his wife might have had more of an impact had the show not already spent a few episodes undercutting the tragedy of Nick's story. The moment he mistakes his wife for Lucifer might have had an impact had we seen Nick struggling harder against, his sinful nature. Lucifer's echo, or whatever you want to call it. If the very same writers of this episode hadn't already shown him praying to Lucifer earlier in the season, maybe then it would have worked. But those kind of reveals only work if the audience thinks there's a chance the character could go either way toward redemption or damnation. When we already know the answer, why do we care? As for Donatello's recovery, I'm blasé about the guy. He's fine, just never struck me as that interesting. Kevin Tran always had potential as a young kid thrust into the deep end, but learning how to hold his own and kind of growing up. Donnie just doesn't seem to really have anywhere to go. For the scene in particular, where Castiel's healing him, it does feel weird. It seems like the fight a person has in their hearts would come from the soul. Would be a pretty good description of what a soul is. And Castiel never noticed this fight in Donnie before. On the other hand, I like the Winchesters having a win once in a while. What's the second part of their family business? Saving people. Of late, it's hard not to have the impression that they don't really save anybody, except in the abstract sense. So on a personal level, I want to excuse Donnie coming back just to give the boys that win. Especially as without a soul, for Donnie, dead really is dead. I guess it depends. Part of me almost wishes Donnie was just free to go on with his life. On the other hand, for this to really work for writing, Donnie needs to be the key to finding and unlocking the solution for Dean's problem with Mom. Hopefully, they'll pay this little plot thread off. Speaking of, as far as the episode goes, the boys were pretty good. Castiel, not bad. Story in general, moderately competent. Not much else to really say about it. So, Let's talk about the arc overall, and writing stories in particular. Well, side note, how does Billy's warning make any sense? Her books are about how Dean dies. But with Michael inside of him, even the show admits he can't really die, so how does she have any books about him destroying the world when he doesn't die? He's ill now. Shouldn't there be, no books at all on our shelves? And how does the box... Anyway. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. In a lot of stories, and Supernatural in particular, the stories are usually structured around a goal or a problem, with our boys usually aiming to achieve that or solve that problem. So we got where they start, and we got where they end. And they want to get from here to there. The challenge for the writers, then, is figuring out how to express that story over 20 plus episodes. I mean, we could just write, the monster starts charging, Sam shoots, the monster dies. The end. Technically it's a story, just not very satisfying or entertaining. We have where the heroes start, we have where they want to be. There's two obvious methods to fill in this distance for a weekly TV series. The first is to treat the story like a maze. You have our heroes and they start out on one path. Then they run into a problem and it won't work. So then you try another path. Only this runs into a different problem. So maybe you have the boys, they start running into a path that look like it might be a solution. But then the antagonist ruins it for them and forces them to start all over. Do this enough times and before you know it, we've got a season. The problem is, right after Dean becomes the cage, Billy shows up with the one solution. Now the show's painted itself into a corner. Previous continuity has established Billy's just about as close to Chuck as far as information goes. If he's not available, then what she tells the characters, and through them, us the audience, is as authoritative as the writers and showrunners themselves coming onto screen to tell us what's happening. So, now what? Either Billy is completely truthful, at which point everything is just a waste of our time, we all know these fail, or Billy is wrong, and there are other solutions. Then that raises the questions. How and why was she wrong? Was she lying to Dean? What was the purpose, and for what reason would we ever have to trust her again? If she was just mistaken, then we still have little reason to trust her again. The writers just ruined one of their tools to establish rules for the audience. If they ever want to have Billy give a warning in the future to raise the drama and heighten the tension, the audience just won't buy it because we already know she was wrong once before. Obviously, she's probably wrong that time. The second method is to pretty much establish from the onset what the protagonists have to do and then make completing that an arduous affair. In this case, you'd break the path up into, 20 segments to cover the season. First episode might be getting the design for their solution. And the next episode might be getting some of the material. Third episode is more material. Then fourth episode, the antagonists strike and steal all their work. So then fifth episode is getting it all back. And so on. Problem is, Dean literally built the solution in one afternoon. By himself. Now what? Do we just have the brothers sitting around the rest of the season staring at the box? The show has sabotaged both of their own methods to stretch the arc into a season-long story and have it weigh on the audience and our investment in a way that has weight and meaning. Maybe the show will pull out some third way and surprise me, but given its general history, I kind of doubt it. This has actually been one of my repeated complaints with Dab and Carver years, is that they want the audience to, feel something about the brothers' struggles and their challenges, but then they never do any of the necessary work to make it real for us. I just don't get it, especially since so many of these writers seem to have been around since the beginning. And Kripke and Gamble, had some missteps now and then, but they at least had a sense of timing and build, one moment in a story off of another and lead everything to such a great payoff. It's why the original 5 seasons are just remembered so well among the fandom. I think what part of my frustration is that without having even seen a trailer for the next episode, we all know how it's going to start. They're all going to be in the bunker, and Sam's just going to be sitting there reading, maybe Dean, and then the other one will walk into the scene and they'll talk about, oh, I just haven't found any solutions. I got no clues on what we can do. And then they'll just talk about that a little bit and then decide to go hunt them on because they need a break. They need a win. Whatever. The show's just becoming predictable of late. The one thing I did like about this episode is that the general structure was a little bit original. The boys are just sitting there driving along to their destination, and then, oh, we think we got a case. Let's just stop over and see what's going on. Yeah, I'll admit this is kind of hard. With these writers, you always feel like you're kind of grading on a curve. I guess I've got to give this 3 out of 5 shells. It's, again, not bad for this pair, and I guess they're finally improving. And, it's nice to see the bros have a moment, get a win. The real question is, does this all pay off, or where are things going to go? Will this season steadily improve, or is it about to stall out? I'll be back next week to see how it did. Until next time.
I got a feeling that you're losing your mind.